So today we're going to take a look at order of operations, which is something that you should remember from probably the past couple of years that you've been doing math. I have it all written out right here, so take a second to copy those down. Something that I want to take note of course, the first two in order of operations, or PEMDAS, are parentheses and exponents. You're going to want to get rid of those first. But you'll notice that multiplication, division, and addition and subtraction are kind of grouped together. The reason for that being, and it also says next to them left to right, when you're reading one of these expressions, you want to be reading it like you're reading a book. So every time I run into, if I have multiplication and division, whatever one you're hitting first as you're reading that book is the one you're going to do first. So like if I wanted to if you haven't, pause the video for a second so that you can get all that down. And I'm going to move on to number one down here. So if I'm reading this one like a book, first thing I've got is addition. I don't really want to do that yet because that's last in my list. And down here I've got division, and this is technically right there. Remember, if I've got parentheses with a number hanging out outside it, well, it is parentheses. It's technically, the only reason those parentheses are there is to indicate multiplication. It's not actually grouping anything. So I'm going to actually go back to the beginning, and I'm going to read this again like a book, and I'm going to do my division first, because that's what I come to first. So I'm going to do 7 plus, we'll do 54 divided by 3, which if you throw that in Desmos, you get 18 times 2. Okay, now I'm going to go back to the beginning and read this thing again. 7 plus, okay, I've got multiplication again. 18 times 2 gives me 36. And then I'm actually going to, now the only thing left to do is add, so I'll add them together. And you get your final answer of 43. So let's move down. We'll do a couple more examples together. Let's look at number 4. So I'm going to read this thing left to right. Something that should jump out to you is you do have parentheses in here, and you also have exponents. When you have parentheses, you're kind of going inside those parentheses, and you're starting from the top. You're going in that same order. Exponents, multiplication, division, addition, and subtraction. So if I do that, I'm going to say 48 divided by, and then I'm going to do all this work inside my parentheses. 2 to the 5th, again, Desmos will be your friend, unless you know that off the top of your head. That's 32. Minus 29 plus 6 squared. Now I want those parentheses to completely disappear. So the way I get them to disappear is I actually do all the math that I can inside them. So I'm still, even though I've got an exponent at the end there, I'm going to let that sit for a second, and I'm going to finish off my parentheses. So I'm going to do 48 divided by 32 minus 29 is 3 plus 6 squared. Okay, now the parentheses are gone. Again, I'm going to start over order of operations. The first thing order of operations tells me to do is my exponents. So I'm going to rewrite this as 48 divided by 3 plus, take care of my exponent, 36. Start over. 48 divided by 3. Now I can actually take care of that because my parentheses and my exponents are out of the way. 48 divided by 3 is 16. And now I'm left with just an addition problem. 16 plus 36 is 52. Let's move on to, let's do a couple on the other side of this. So let's go on to number 8. So number 8 has a couple of things going on. It's got one of those square root signs that we have been working with, and we've got some parentheses and some exponents, a whole bunch of stuff going on. I'm going to do the same thing I did last time, though. I'm going to get rid of those parentheses first. The only thing that needs to be done in the parentheses is I have to do some subtraction. So I'm going to rewrite this as 29 minus 2 squared times 11 minus 8. That's all the math I can do inside, so I'm going to get rid of them. So technically, one of the things that you'll notice on order of operations on that first page that we looked at, the notes say parentheses or other grouping symbols. Think of this square root as kind of a grouping symbol, because this whole math problem, 29 minus 2 squared, is all being square rooted. So I have to do that math before I can do anything else. So let me do that. So I'm going to have square root of 29 minus 2 squared is 4, and then I'll rewrite the rest of this stuff. Now we'll do that math again inside or underneath the square root. It's going to give me square root of 25. And now I'll do that square root. Now I'll skip a couple things here. I won't rewrite it so many times because if I've got 5 there, most of you will probably be able to recognize right here, this 3 squared is actually going to turn into a 9. So I'll put that there. And now this is starting to be a little bit prettier than what it was before. I'll do 5 times 9. And now I'm left with just an addition problem. Oops. This should be a subtraction sign. My bad. So then when I do that subtraction, I'll get 19. Last one that I want to do together is number 11 down here. This one is a little bit different because I have got it in a fraction. What I want you to do if you've got a fraction, think of each piece of the fraction, the numerator and the denominator, as its own separate part. Do the order of operations on the top, then do the order of operations on the bottom, and then do whatever that fraction tells you to do. If it's just going to be a regular fraction, if it's an improper fraction, if you can reduce it down, you can deal with that later. But first, let's do each piece at a time. So let's do the numerator first. So the numerator is giving me 2 to the 7th minus 5 minus 2 in parentheses cubed plus 3. So let's do our parentheses first. So that numerator is going to turn into 2 to the 7th minus 5 minus 2, which I'll actually get rid of those parentheses because that's the only math that I can do in there. So give me 3 cubed plus 3. So now I can go back and do a little bit of that math in there. 2 cubed is going to give me 128. Or sorry, 2 to the 7th is 128. 3 cubed gives me 27. And then plus 3. And now I can do that math out. When I do all that, I'm going to get that numerator is actually equal to 104. So I'll start actually putting together this final fraction. Okay, now I'm going to do the denominator in red. This denominator is a little bit easier than the numerator was. The only thing that you need to be careful of is make sure that you're following that multiplication and division before addition and subtraction. So right here, before I do anything, I'm going to multiply this 7 by 2. And then my math problem just becomes 12 minus 14, which is going to be negative 2. So I'll put that back in the fraction. Now, like I said, if I can actually reduce that down, do it. If you put 104 divided by negative 2, into Desmos, you'll get your final answer is negative 52. Now I want you to go back at some point today. I want you to finish the rest of these problems in the notes. You got something else that you're going to do, but when you're done with that, I'd like you to go back to the notes and finish these.